Well, let's chat. Um, I guess we go around the room. Cassidy, Kate, thank you
Hey,
so much. Kate does not need caffeinated coffee today because she was having Zoom issues early on, but now she's
I had my dose of, of stress right
so
before the meeting.
relaxed. Yeah. So, Kate, would you introduce yourself and
Yeah,
briefly explain who you are, how you got here, why
absolutely.
AI is important to you, and then we'll do Cassidy as well.
Absolutely, I love to. So I'm Kate Vera. I'm a French interior designer. I'm based in NC, so it's next to, not too far away from Switzerland. And
Hmm.
I've been an interior designer for now over 10 years, and I'm also an educator. So I teach interior designers and architects how to use Enscape as a 3D rendering software. And in the past also year and a half, I've really dived deep into AI. AI for me is clearly the future. Is if you're not embracing AI, then you're going to be left behind. So AI is really something that's very important. And I'm teaching, educating architects and interior designers how to use AI using a very specific workflow inside of an interior design project, so they know exactly when to use it and why. So this is a bit of my background.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cassidy?
I'm Cassidy. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you, Chaos, for inviting me. I appreciate it. I am currently the PM of graphics at SketchUp. And before that, I was in film for 12 years as a art director and virtual art director.
Hmm.
And when I'm not doing all that kind of stuff, I'm playing music or two-step dancing. So that's what I'm doing.
There you go. Rod, come on.
All right.
Introduce
Yeah.
yourself.
So
What do
I'm
you
coming
do?
in from the chaos side of the operation, Senior Director, Product Operations. But more specifically to this topic, is I did a number of interviews and helped write a AI white paper. One there we really wanted to understand how AI is being used broadly across the industry. Not chaos products, but AI and visualization. It ended up being a fascinating set of interviews, really challenging to hear all the ways in which people are using it, and honestly left me really impressed, thinking that we needed to do a lot more in some cases. And also just to hear that the sheer amount of creativity that people are applying. AI is just like there's a perception it's all the same. And after talking to so many different folks about their challenges, their techniques for implementing it, like the nuance of what AI is and architectural visualization really came through. So, look forward to bringing some of that experience and, obviously my opinions, of which I probably have too many, to bear as well.
Natasha?
Well, I am from Chaos and I'm from the marketing team, and I'm here to support our lovely speakers and listen to the conversation a little bit on the back end. So I will disappear from your screen in a little
In a
bit
moment.
because
Yeah.
the spotlight is on our lovely guests. So without further ado, take it away, gentlemen and lady.
Thank you very much, Natasha. So I'm Phil. I studied architecture and engineering, went to work for Revit Technology, eventually ended up at my own consulting practice and started working with the Enscape team, which led to working with the Chaos team. And I'll give a preamble to something. So I feel a little conflicted in this transition because 25 years ago, I was trying to convince people to move to modeling in order to render. Now I find myself rethinking that and trying to convince people that it's actually important for us to render in order to model. We don't want to model as a byproduct. We want to render ahead of the design. Kate, you said something, I mean, your background in education, we'll just get to the sticky questions first.
Mhm.
I would love to see AI implemented in education for the purpose of not giving the students an easy way out, but helping them to be more accountable and more to create more judgment for the design. You talk about how do you implement AI? Where are the boundaries for you in the education space? How does that work?
I think for me, like there's right now when it comes to education, so whether it's like schools or studios and so on, we actually need both now. So It's not just
Mm.
about learning about the traditional tools and the traditional way of learning how to do architecture, but we need to also start integrating AI as like an additional tool. So it's not a substitution to all the traditional tools that we have, but it's an additional one that will help us to speed up our workflow. One of the big issues that I'm seeing right now with interior designers and architects is that there's so many tools out there that they get completely lost and they don't know how to use it, when to use it, at which stage to use it. And I think right now, the role of educating how to use AI is to understand at which stage throughout a full design project. So like there's, 6 different stages. When are you going to use which tool and why? For example, at the ideation stage, you're going to do Midjourney, but why will be using Midjourney? It's not like an end result of saying, okay, you created a beautiful render and that's it, that's going to be produced. This is just an element as a source of inspiration. And AI is here to help you for inspiration, but it's not here to replace your creativity, your knowledge, and your technical background that you have as an interior designer. So I think there's a big blur and misunderstanding right now in terms of the like AI has came in our life in such a fast way that people are overwhelmed and they don't really know how to use it. So it's really important to keep both worlds and to know how to merge them together to get the most out of it.
Is there an order of
Is it? Yeah.
operations to that? Like,
There's
is AI come later? Like you got to learn the fundamentals first, or both at the same
so
time?
no, I think there's like it depends how we educate. So I'm not talking about actual schools, but I'm talking about how I educate interior designers. What I've done is that I've taken like an actual full workflow of interior design. So we're starting off with ideation, or like the first the concept creation of the project. Then we go into the ideation stage. Then we go into modeling, into rendering, post-production, and storytelling. And during each of these stages, I actually explain, interior designers already know how this full project works, but I explain to them at which stage, which AI tools are useful, how to use them, how to make the most out of it, and how to use it almost as an element for example, when it comes to creating like beautiful images right at the start when it's the ideation stage. It's to tell them this is here to actually build the storytelling behind the idea that you have of the concept for your project, but it's not here as an end result. So it creates the wow effect, but you as a technical or as an expert are here to explain this is just the vibe, the feel, like the style that you're looking for. But now we're going to get into the concrete stage of like understanding, the floor planning, how to build it. Then when it comes to like modeling, like which AI tools can we use to speed up, for example, in the modeling process. There's so many elements that we can integrate to help us to elevate how we communicate, how we present, and also help us to be more productive in our workflow.
Is there? So I don't know. Part of my tendency is I like to go fast. Part of my tendency is I like to go slow. I I think there's a creative artifact, whether it's music, whether it's writing an essay, whether it's trying to design building, that there is this fear of failure that has to be overcome and worked through. I don't know that that's not important to maintain. So how do we maintain good judgment and fear of failure with using tools that can create such seductive images so quickly? And you think, oh, I must be done. This is beautiful. But maybe it's too easy and beautiful sometimes. Cassidy, you're looking at this from the music side of things, and you can create shite lyrics very quickly and get sucked in. But how do you push back against the quick answer that might come at the beginning in order to be rigorous? Like, how do you still develop judgment if there's somebody on your shoulder saying, oh, I got an answer, do this, it's real quick, it looks amazing?
It depends who you're working with. One of the things I did in film, because I always had different clients, was, all right, what's our end result roughly for the next month? Like,
Give me an example. When you say a film, set this, like, give us a specific.
Okay, Mank, which is a film by Fincher on Netflix. That one was an example of when do you need what right? So my process and what I'm giving to folks is different at different times, and I have different requirements for every job. Like some people that I worked for wanted everything in full color. They like to see all of that. Then some people don't want things in full color. They want it very, kept in a certain zone. So, I
At
mean,
that, they just want images at that point, or do they want something explorable?
well, actually, my experience as far as like when you say explorable, I think of like VR, AR, that sort of
Yeah,
worlds.
yeah, yeah. Like something they can kind of get inside
Yeah,
of,
I
or
guess maybe
no?
an
They're
image
just looking
versus a
for images.
scene, right? Maybe something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so images, it depends on the clients. You would think some of the
Okay.
directors, like when I worked for Fincher, it was always black and white. Everything was black and white. Don't give me the color unless the illustrator was doing it. And they were doing it the old school way with him in Photoshop,
Hmm,
right? And
right.
so it just all depends on your clients. To tie this back into AI, because that's the main focus of this, I'm hearing from my friends still in the industry that people are saying, I don't want to see AI anymore. So that's the other part of it.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
almost like
think
an insult to say, "Oh, that looks AI generated." Like
it
no one's
is
saying that as a compliment.
correct.
Right.
But our goal as artists to tie it in so it's not just a scare tactic and is to use it as a new tool, right? So people don't know that it's AI. Like I have friends in the same industry that use AI all the time and nobody knows. They're just very clever with it.
Right.
What they do is they'll do four different versions of their original, right? And then so they kind of squeak it in that way. But some agencies and some directors are saying, don't give that to me. I don't want it. So they want that human
Right.
element. And I think that human element is what we love, why we listen to the music we do, why we liked the art, the movies we have in the past, is because we understood the hard work that went through it and the passion that went through it.
Yeah.
And that does not mean you can't have passion with AI. It's just nobody wants the stuff like, hey, I hit the print button, look at this amazingness. It's like, great, good for you. So now the bar is
Well,
there with.
well, I mean, for Kate as an instructor, Kate, you would have an enormity of judgment that your students don't yet have. So when
Mhm.
you see their image that is generated very quickly and it looks amazing and seductive, what happens when you push back and go, well, maybe you shouldn't use this as a starting point? Like, how do you differentiate between a quick answer that might have, might have more
I,
legs at, yeah, what happens?
I
They
actually
think they
have
got the right
a
answer. They
funny.
used a calculator and they added up the numbers and the number came out.
No,
And
no,
then you
but
go, maybe,
I actually have a funny anecdote about that. So recently I was working on a project on renovation, and it so between the moment I got the brief and the moment I presented the first concepts, I needed 3 weeks to work on it. And when I
hmm,
came back 3 weeks during the presentation with the clients, first thing they told me, they're like, hold on, like, why did it take you 3 weeks to actually design or to come up with the concept for our house when my niece did it in just like under 15 minutes with Midjourney? And that kind of like reflects the reality of what we might be facing actually in the future of clients not
right,
understanding the limitations between, okay, great, for sure, we're going to be using, and honestly, and I've seen it. I mean, the speed of approval of showing AI generated visuals at the early stage of a concept has really like speeded up by at least like 40% the approval rates. Because up to now, we would show them like a 2D floor plan. So a client would be able to project themselves in the space. They would understand, you would spend time trying to communicate your ideas, and they didn't necessarily understand exactly what you're saying. So here, using Midjourney as reference images, or just even creating a short like storytelling video, because we know how powerful like video storytelling is. So you've got 1 minute to convince right at the beginning of the project, and the more you embrace them in the space, the more they can feel the space, the quicker actually the buy-in you're going to get from the client. So there's pros and cons, but you need to know how to
hmm,
use AI, where you need to say, okay, this is clearly just like a base reference image. This is the idea that you're going to get, but this is not feasible. It's not technically feasible. So this is where we start off. The starting point now has changed. The starting point starts with this mid-journey image. Then we start building the space. Then we model, and this is where rendering softwares are still crucial, because this is where we get the final result. So the scale is accurate, the materials, the lighting is accurate, the whole space, whatever we build in rendering a software is buildable, opposite to what we show through like a standard mid-journey visual. So this is exactly where we need to be careful.
What happens when you start to model the space that was rendered so well and you're underwhelmed?
But
Like, do you have to, like,
this
you
is
go,
where
oh, it looks
also
really
there's
good as an image.
So either you're excellent, you're an excellent like 3D renderer, and if it's not the case, obviously you model your render like in SketchUp or whatever modeling software that you have, and again you can start reusing AI to help you visualize certain area, like visualize actually the space with the materials. Know again that it's not going to be 100% accurate, and we just have like a front face view, so it's still quite difficult to have different perspectives of the same space in AI. So we would use that as like a base reference. But obviously, the ideal combination is knowing how to use AI tools, knowing how to model, and knowing how to do a 3D render as an end result. This would be like the perfect flow for an actual architect.
So it's kind of a cycle.
It's a cycle, and AI really fits in every single stages of these of a project. So you use it at the beginning, you're going to use it also at the modeling stage, and you're going to use it again when it comes to post-production, either to improve your 3D renders, or for people who don't necessarily know how to render, there's still workaround. It's not perfect, so nothing compares to 3D rendering, but there's still workaround to be able to still convey in a realistic way your model.
When we had calls before these calls, right, to talk about kind of ideate some of the ideas, and it always seems, and Cassidy, you had mentioned this, there's this AI does everything up to a point, and then there's this last mile that has to happen by someone with judgment. Like, that doesn't seem to go away. So, you get pointed in a direction, you get pointed in a vector, but and I think the way you mentioned this before was, if you know how to do it manually, AI is a really good tool. If you don't know how to do it, AI just gives you a bunch of images, and how do you know? So is
Well,
that going to change, Rod? I mean, what do you think?
I would say this general consensus seems to be emerging that those that know how to use traditional practices or understand sort of traditional design theory get the most out of AI tools. And the reason
Mm,
being is a bit what Kate's saying. It's like, you understand how to interpret them and to drive design. I think there's as you use the term seduction with AI, like it looks good enough that you're like, I'll just take
it's
it as is.
amazing.
It
I'm
looks
done.
amazing, right? But you also
Yeah.
think about like what a good designer does early in design. They don't show necessarily photoreal, and they're not showing something that's not, they're not shying away from photoreal oftentimes early in design. They're because of like the level of effort that's required and things like that. They're oftentimes shying away because it doesn't achieve the goal that they're targeting early in design. And
Right.
if you think about what people often show, it's something that's, sometimes they'll use muted colors, black and white, like Cassidy mentioned, or a view that is very framed and narrow, or something that looks like a watercolor because it's evocative. And all of those are different vehicles that designers seem to use to focus attention on the part of the principal or the decision maker or the client, whoever it might be, say, okay, this is the question I'm asking. But you show
Mm.
these perfect images, and now the question, like, well, what are you asking someone to say? Like, yeah, that looks great, but you're not really driving design in a fundamental, focused way. And so, people that are skilled, that have all the tricks already that they've learned before there was this convenient easy button, know how to frame a good question, know how to frame an image to ask a question and to get an answer and move forward. And I think that's why people that have the skills, they're really in a good position. And I do worry that the ease of AI, and particularly in education, where like it's kind of like that ends up being like some of the first things you learn, and you don't necessarily learn all these fundamental components, sort of like what's actually underpinning the decision-making process and why is something a good design, can make it a real challenge. And I do worry for the future of the industry in that sense, that people are going to kind of forget the fundamentals.
Yeah, I don't think we want to stop teaching kids to sketch
No,
at
but
all,
people
right?
are
There's
also going to
something,
go with what's easiest. I mean, we're all human, right? Even
well, I
someone
mean,
that,
like, yeah.
I
Well,
think
you'll teach them to sketch, but you'll teach them, to Kate's point, you'll teach them with the thought of, hey, this sketch can now do this,
Mhm.
right? And when
Yeah.
you do that, you're blending, you're pulling the best of our history of learning and what's great about each part of learning. And there is something beautiful. Like there's a reason why the remarkable tablet exists, which is the one that feels like paper. That exists because we still love paper that much that there's a whole business out of it, right?
Yeah, just to make it push back at you. It's not
Just
too
to make
slippery.
it feel pushback. And it does. I've tried one. It does give you that sensation, right?
Yeah.
So we are very feeling oriented people, some people more than others, right? And that feeling is part of the journey. And I wanted to say there was like to Kate's point about where AI is and not being afraid of it and using it. It's not a one-stop shop for sure. I think we all know that now. But there are times where I will use it on purpose to hallucinate, right?
Mm.
So like I have, I know it might add an extra handrail or some weird paneling that doesn't exist. Okay, fine. But at the beginning, you don't want to be doing that after you've sold the building. And then I've seen quite a few of the chats, and then I'll shut up, which is talking about, and I have a little slide presentation if we have time for that I talk about this. It's like, yeah, it's great AI. That image is amazing. It sold the project, and then you go to your construction coordinator. That's who I would deal with in film, and he goes, "You do realize that we need Zaha Hadid's budget to build that, and even that is going to be crazy." Your wood grain being the wrong direction. There's things like that that was the reason why I showed things in black and white. Because if
Early on.
there are certain clients who will be like, what's up with that? My clients would know that I moved a plug 2 inches up digitally, right? Just
Mm.
a plug. And so their eye is very keen. So AI is great, but what we're missing, in my opinion, right now is the control of it. It's like, great. I love the ideation. Awesome. Hey, assistant who spent all night doing that, you did great, but change this, hold that, don't do this, make that lighter. Have fun with that right now.
Yeah, that's that last smile.
Yeah.
Like, but I found that I understood composition better because I learned how to sketch. And then I understood composition better when I was learning Photoshop, I understood it in concept because I knew how to compose. And then now I feel with AI, it's like if you don't know how to use Photoshop, AI is kind of difficult because it gets you to the last mile. It's like, okay, most of this is good, but you know what? We just need to get into some post here and there. And I just find at some point with AI, it becomes so passive aggressive. You're like, okay, I'm done. I'm just going to take it into
Yeah,
post to do this last
yeah,
bit.
the effort to take it the
And
last
if you
mile
don't know
is
how to
not
use
worth
those
it.
tools manually, you're kind of stuck with the automated tools, and then you can't
And
Well,
if you
even if you
use.
don't
do know
know
how to
how
use
to
them
describe
manually,
it, if you
is it
don't know how
creating new
to
expect?
describe it either, sorry, Rod,
Yeah.
like
We're excited.
you can just type it in. Yeah, but I don't know what it's called. I don't know what it's called. I don't know that style. I don't know that color. So that becomes difficult as well.
And I actually agree with you also, Cassidy, because I mean, AI can be both like a blessing and a trap in a certain way. I mean, when you get like instant beautiful visuals, and it's really easy to skip like the real design thinking. I think this is where the barrier, is there. So people are not thinking about the proportions, the flow, the light, the function of the space anymore. And you just jump from like this perfect image before the idea has even time to mature in your mind. And not before, but still even today, I mean, we sketch right at the beginning of a project, like we sketch, we rethink, we let the
Mm.
concept like really breathe, And the risk right now is just jumping straight into these like wow renders before we actually truly kind of understand the story or the function of the space that we're trying to create. So I think AI is clearly here to support us in terms of creativity, but we can't set it up in autopilot. We as designers, we
Right.
really must, like, the idea is here, we really need to remain the authors of what we create. We're the ones who are deciding what it means, why it exists, and how it feels. And I think this is exactly the barrier where we need to be really careful for AI not to hijack our artist journey, you know, in what we do. Yeah.
We don't like fast food. You don't want to drink fast liquor. Yeah, sometimes things that go fast end up creating unintended consequences. So how do we go slow with AI and be more deliberative?
Just as a
Increase
counterpoint, though,
judgment.
there's still fast food restaurants, right? You know, there's
Oh,
still
there are. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
there's still
You can
some
buy it from
dive
your
bars,
car.
and things like that, right? So that's one of the challenges I've always had with AI. And on one side, it's like, okay, there's the artist side, and Chaos makes tools for people that really do care. Like they're passionate about design. You don't just stumble
Yeah.
into Chaos, but
Maybe
there
it's
is
not, I'll
also a
just
lot of
clarify
stuff.
something, Rod.
Yeah.
It's not just the speed. It's not that you get your food fast. It's that it feels like a transaction.
Yes.
When you order from a speaker box and it goes, "Welcome to May I help you?" And then you give them your food order, and then someone gives you a bag in a window and you drive away, as opposed to just that moment where you say, "Hey, how's your mom doing? I heard she's not been well. What's going on?" Or someone says, "Thanks, have a good day." Or the business is owned by someone who actually owns a business. You feel like there's that connection as opposed to a transaction. And maybe that's what
But
I'm trying
do
to
you
get.
feel there's some art? But then again, I just flip it around and look at architecture that's out there. And so let's think of the drive.
Mm.
You recently flew into an airport and you drove home. I mean, how many of the buildings that you passed looked like they were a transactional, like outcome of a transactional
Oh, there already is
relationship,
transactional architecture. Yeah, absolutely.
right? So
I don't
that's
think we
where I'm
want to
like,
make
is
more
there a
of it.
place now
It's
where AI can make transactional architecture better? Like, is there a place to kind of
mm.
lift all tides there? Or is it all because we're talking about its application on with people that really, like I say, they care about design.
I mean, sometimes you drive. I mean, I'm in the South and there's churches everywhere, right? And sometimes you drive past a church and it's a Butler building that
Yes.
has accoutrements on the outside that are religious. And then sometimes you drive past something that was built 200 years ago out of stone and it just feels different. It
Oh, for
doesn't
sure.
feel like a transaction. So that's why, a tendency is to do things fast and fail. I like that. And we're talking about AI primarily for the design space. We're not talking about AI for the whole universe of things. It's faster than going to Pinterest. It's faster than doing web searches for images. I do find that if you can't describe things well, you get stuck.
And
And so are we teaching architecture students? I'll give a shout out to Kerry Thompson in New Zealand. He said we should teach students poetry. We should teach them to write well because that poetry becomes the prompt. Is it more than just the transactional sketching and getting an image? Like we have to think more
I feel
deeply
it's part
about it.
about being a critic is almost more is what
Hmm,
it's because think of AI, right? It is supposed to be replicating an individual's work
right.
in a way, right? And I think part of the challenge is then that you have to be the critic of AI. And I would agree with that sentiment, like, poetry, things like that. Like what teaches someone to be a good critic? And a lot of it is those more liberal arts type components of education, I would say.
Wow. Architects hiring poets to describe spaces. Like after a design charrette with the design team, and then the poet goes away and describes it because you
Yeah,
need really
not a
good
Butler
prompts.
building.
No, right, negative prompt. Oh, so I
When
mean,
you said when you said fast food, it was funny because you had one take on it, Phil, and in my head, I was thinking, "Oh yeah, I have fast food when I need to on a road trip." And I think
that's right.
AI is the same way, right? It's
When
like,
you need it.
oh, when do you need
There
it?
you go.
And you need to know it. Part of what this is, again, the beauty of us humans is we still need to be involved. You need to know what's going to make you successful over somebody else is how you use it. Because we all have it now, right? We all have this magic button, but it's how you use it and who you use it with at what point in your journey with your client, right? It really does matter. Some people might love all the wow, and if you're smart enough as the architects to know that you can get away with certain things like, oh, that's not quite the right marble, or I'd never be able to get a slab of marble that big, or whatever. If you know your
Mm.
clients don't look at it that way, they just have stupid money and want to see their view, fine, right? But if you're building a house for an architect, let's just say, oh man, they're going to have laser eyes, right? And
Yeah.
so you've got to be careful when you use these tools, but I think it's just adding another color to your palette that you already have is what it is.
Yeah, but I'm not yet unconvinced that good design is a byproduct of constraint.
Well,
It's a budgetary constraint, it's a site constraint, it's a restriction of some sort that forces creativity
well,
to
you
the
don't want
education.
that. No, but
Like
like,
I don't want unlimited budget. I want constrained budget. I don't want a
I mean, that's the
refrigerator
Eames's
with,
argument, right? I think they had a whole
yeah, I want to like
movie on
hone
that.
in on quiet and careful.
But even then, the constraint is also your time during the design itself. I mean, you mentioned sketching, right?
Okay,
Well,
fair
yeah,
enough.
okay, maybe it
Yeah.
seems fast, right? But compared to your prompt and image, it's slow.
but what is fast? To Kate's point, in every artistic endeavor I've ever done, the best ones are when you have time. It's like Rick Rubin said, "Don't rush me until I have to be rushed." Right? There's a beauty to drawing, or for me, I don't draw. I do everything digitally, but I call it kit bashing. It's not a, we've heard that before. There's a beauty to it. And then you throw your first light in there and it bounces off something. And you go, oh, you know what would be beautiful? And it's that evolution that makes great art in any, whether it's music or anything. And so if you fast forward that too much without understanding that stuff, sure, you're gonna sell stuff. Hey, forgive me, there's shysters everywhere. You know what I mean? There's gonna be people who can sell dirt to Mother Earth, but that doesn't mean it's gonna be a beautiful building, to your point, with
I
raw.
like Kate's example of the client that thought it was easy because a child could do it. I don't think the clients are hiring us because of electricity and our computers and, oh, do you use this tool versus that tool? I think they're hiring Kate for her judgment. And it's not the product, it's the process. And what the child showed was a product. But the
Yeah.
process of Kate's judgment and experience is what the client really needs. I just don't know how we're going to have to frame the conversation so they understand the value of judgment, of good
Yeah,
judgment.
but that's the problem, right? As soon as you have to explain something, you're already on your left foot, so to speak. Like
I
I
mean, if you
don't.
could take the client along, I think the clients they want to be part of the journey. And
Exactly.
maybe it's confusing when things are too fast.
Yeah.
I think
I mean,
it's
have you
actually
changed things, Kate?
sorry, I think it's actually a positive thing that the clients also want to express, or actually looking into how to create visuals with Midjourney or with AI. Because as exactly you're saying, Phil, and I completely agree, is that for a project to succeed and for the client to be happy, they need to be fully committed in the project. And if you get them involved in also like, digging visuals of what they like through AI or Midjourney and so on, this really involves them even more in the flow. And this is where afterwards our responsibility as architects or interior designers is to tell them, well, this is great. Thank you so much for all the input, for your insight. Now, me as the professional, I've got the creative eye, I've got the expertise, I've got the knowledge in terms when it comes to all the technical knowledge and so on. I am here to guide you what works, what doesn't work, whether it's technical, whether it's aesthetical. And this is where you are still the professional that they're calling, but on the other hand, they're involved in the process, which actually makes the whole process much smoother and faster in a certain way. So you need to educate the client and telling him, okay, this is great that you've looked into it, but I'm still here to recalibrate, what's visually appealing and what's feasible. But at least they're really involved in the whole project. So I feel that it does help to get a project out quicker and to get an approval faster.
Hey, something in doing the research for the white paper, this trend of clients bringing images definitely came up. But something that I didn't hear, and hearing you talk through this makes me think, is like you're saying to the client, this is great. I'm going to take this, I'm sort of under advisement or riff with it a little bit. But there doesn't seem to be an education of the clients of how potentially to use AI as a mechanism to like continue to iterate with you throughout the design process. It's kind of like you
Mm.
take the collateral and then you're like done. But I'd be curious if there's a space for the continued use of AI on the part of the client, but under certain guardrails, certain guidance, certain prompts, being like, hey, I give them homework and be like, well, take this and maybe try, different colors or different layouts within this set of rules. I mean, it seems like it's something you could almost lean into.
So it
Oh,
really depends how tech savvy, I guess, the client is, because I
Yeah.
did try that. And then, I mean, they know one tool, so usually they just like, work with ChatGPT. Already Midjourney is too complicated for them. So ChatGPT, and once you start asking them to just like, reassess colors, maybe, explore materials, they get lost. They get
Yeah.
stressed, they get lost. So it from the few trials I've done and from feedback that I had from students, because that was a topic that we did discuss, they feel overly overwhelmed by being too implicated. So it's usually really at the very, very beginning of the project when they're just showing you the brief that they've digged into like ideas and what they're looking for in the style, and this is usually where they use a bit of AI, but afterwards. They get a bit too lost with all the different tools that you need to use at a later stage.
A great way to demonstrate the value of the designer.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly it. So you can say this is your limit,
Yeah.
don't go further.
So, Kate, your value or the architect's or the designer's value is to provide judgment.
Yes.
Right? Ultimately, you have lots of things you can do. And here's
Mhm.
why Kate's experience says we should go in this direction. But the other piece you're mentioning is there's this curation artifact where you don't want to overwhelm the client. You want to curate their experience so that they have influence at certain key frames in this journey.
Exactly.
Otherwise, they're just overwhelmed. They don't know.
No, they get lost, and then I mean sometimes, and this is usually how I work. When they come up with ideas, usually either like the color palette or the materials just don't match, the flow of the space doesn't work. So they get excited, but they actually have no sense of taste. It's a bit hard to say, but in the end, that is also why they call us. you know.
Well, no, let's untangle that. So they give you colors, they give you ideas, they show you pictures. Do you try to untangle that and understand they're showing you images that represent a final product, but what is the process? What do those underlying principles of those images represent to them as concepts or principles that we can go, okay, now I understand why you like these materials or these things, or what are you trying to accomplish?
Exactly.
And
So
we don't AI doesn't have a way of doing this. Like
no,
I think it'd
this
be
would still
interesting to
remain like
create
very
client personas.
exactly. So I mean, the client will come with all of these different elements which are completely like disconnected and there's no link to it. And this is where us as like a personal, as a professional and with our own judgment and knowledge of the industry, where we're going to be able, this AI will not be, it will help you, for example, to create like color palettes. If, for example, they come up with one color reference that they really like, and then you need to generate like a full set of colors so everything is harmonized in the space. There are AI tools that are great for that, so that you can use that as a reference. You can still use Midjourney as a help when it comes to thinking of how different materials combination can work together. But it's not going to assess the full space, because I mean, you as a designer as well need to understand: is it feasible? What is the cost? Does it fit the budget of the client? What is the timeline? Where depending on where you're based, maybe like the materials don't react the same way depending on like the humidity of where you live and so on. So there's all these parameters where you as an expert are here to guide them and saying, okay, well, you want that material. Sure, it looks great, but it's just not going to work where you live. So we need to actually shift towards this, or it doesn't fit your budget. So, and this is where they actually see the added value of us as architects or interior designers of saying, okay, we're clearly, I've got loads of ideas, but in the end, it's just not feasible. And I got a few clients actually who came to me and said, I tried to do it by myself. Like I thought AI would do it for me. And actually, a few months later, they come back to me saying, we tried, but it's actually not possible. Like we still need you. So that was actually really nice to hear. And I keep reiterating that to my students and saying, guys, you're not going to be replaced by AI. AI will help you in certain areas. It will speed up, different areas, but you're not going to be replaced. Your value is still crucial and clients will still need you.
So AI gives us, it doesn't displace us, it directs us.
It directs us, exactly. It guides us. Yeah.
Cassidy, you're being thoughtful. You're not talking, man.
Oh, I'm trying not.
You've got there's so much in there going on.
There
Yeah, I
is.
love it because you have these musical metaphors, you have the software metaphor, your background in storytelling, in film and stage design, uh, in writing lyrics. It doesn't displace. It might give you a direction, but it doesn't displace.
No, I mean, to go into music, like, sure, some people could go use AI to write the lyrics. It does okay. But what it really shines at is, hey, I've got this one word or this one line that is driving me bonkers. Can you help me with it? Right. But I understand songwriting structure too. So
Mm.
I know when it's hallucinating. So we all know it hallucinates. The example I was given before everybody joined, I'll say real quick. Last night I was getting ready for this meeting, doing my deep research with Gemini, and I was doing AI and rendering and looking into different things. And then I used Canvas to make me a infographic. And the infographic looked amazing, right? I was so impressed, right? Now I got my client hat on and I'm like, oh, wow, this is fantastic. Then I start looking at this one chart and it's comparing four different AI renderers. I'm like, awesome. And it's beautiful and it's interactive. And then I'm like, I haven't heard of any of these renderers before. None of them. And I
Mm.
try to keep
Mm.
up on that stuff. So I write back to Gemini, hey, Gemini, I've never heard of these. And Gemini says back, you're absolutely right. You've never heard of them because I made them up. And I was like, well, I asked you to do an infographic based on this information. Yeah, I know, but I didn't have that information, so I made it up. Right. And it's like, if you
Okay.
don't know what the information should be or how a building should stand, or to Kate's point, or the sheet goods, the right size, all of that stuff, that's what really, in the end, I think matters. And once we get there, I think one of the most important things is going to be context aware selections, to get a little techie, right? Because AI has a much better chance when you can do context aware selections, right? So at that point, you can be like, oh, well, the client loved everything except for that. Select that and work on that, right? But then the question is, what is the work that you're doing? Is it more ideation, or is it something that's got to be structural and be built, right? Those are two different things. You can trust AI with dreaming, sure, it can help you even dream, but when you actually got to build the damn thing, that's a different story.
One of the things I've noticed I'm hearing more of is large firms using their repositories of work to train their models. I
Exactly.
was
Yep.
actually at an event in Washington, D.C. last week, and there was an individual next to me who's from probably the world's largest interior design firm. And he said, basically, I think almost direct quote, I rarely ever model anymore. He's using all AI for what he's doing, primarily in the pursuit phase. But what was interesting
Sketching.
about no, it's like prompt based stuff. But what
Okay.
they've done is they've used their own repositories of work to train their model.
Yep.
And it was kind of a fascinating thing. Because of that, it's like it captures their IP. Of course, it does beg a question of how do you continue to evolve your design language if it's always, look somewhat recursive in that sense. But what was fascinating is that because they did that, they're not using just any AI tool. Like their training of the tool helps to inform and create something that's uniquely theirs. So that's one piece, and it understands their logic. But the thing that was particularly fast, because they trained it, they were also able to say, okay, facade of this building of this type. Now they created this image of a facade, and then it says, okay, show me the lobby. And bam, it would create a lobby for this building that was appropriate in the context of their design. Like it would even have to be much more of an elaborate prompt than that, which was wild to me. So it's like there's this component here where you can, I think for larger firms and whatnot, be able to pull this past repository of work and use that and create this artificial experience that you can pull from. And to me, that was unbelievable. I have never seen anything quite like it yet. And it
Well,
shows the value of that.
when you do
Trevor
that,
Taylor. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Cassidy. I'll jump in. I've got a question from
I'll
somebody.
make it quick. Just to expand on that. Yes, I 100% agree, Rod, that you need that to pull from, because that's part of having that badass assistant that never complains. Is you need to be able to say, hey, these are like, when I worked for the government through my dad, they have their own swatch book for government
Yeah.
colors,
Right. And
right?
so if you're doing an AI thing, it better pull from those
Oh,
swatches, right?
please update that swatch book, because every time I
Oh,
fly
tell me.
internationally and come into a immigration hall in the US, oh
Oh,
my
it's
gosh, do
always,
I
It's
just
not
want to
meant to
go
be
back to the
uplifting,
plane?
Phil. Come on.
it
No,
looks
go to
like
the
you're in.
immigration hall in Singapore. It is like I'm just asking to go shopping on the other side of this passport control. Here is my passport. This is a beautiful space. What? And Trevor Taylor brings up an interesting point about when you have young minds and the knowledge gap of passing on information. And I think that the way we historically conveyed wisdom is older people with judgment down wisdom to younger people that are not yet fully formed. And and there's something beautiful about that, because people aren't always going to be with us. And so it's constrained, the artifact of being human. It's something about AI being the intern that is always happy to do what you ask, never pushes back, as
And
opposed to
remembers every
grandpa.
project.
Right, as opposed to grandpa going, I'll talk about that later. Don't bother me right now. And he's like busy being grandpa. So it's there, maybe in a way, one of the things I find, I love to use it. Don't get me wrong. I'm always in post production for the last mile, but I do want this artifact of it pushing back and going, I'm sorry, Phil, I can't do that. As opposed to the recent South Park episode where AI was like, that's a great idea, Randy. I could see, yeah, we should figure out a business plan. It's going to be amazing. And then it becomes a cautionary tale, because the AI is so happy to do things at the beginning. It ends up turning into bad outcome. To make AI push back? Do you generate images and then sleep on them and wake up in the next morning and going, I thought that was a good idea, but I'm less overwhelmed now that I've the artifact.
Well, how nice would it be if you asked it to do something and it was still cordial like it is, because that gives us all a dopamine hit, right? We love
Right,
it. You. But then it
That's
goes,
amazing.
what? Do you know how expensive that pane of glass is going to be? If you
Okay,
just
fair
made it
enough.
2 feet shorter this way, you're going to save a lot of money. Or, hey, that
Mhm.
cantilevered, I like to use that one. It's probably a little further out. You might want to add 2 posts down there, and that will be way more affordable, or whatever. And it starts. Uh, so again, if we have time, I'd like to show you my slide deck. I consider AI, the way I talk about it at SketchUp and with friends, anybody who wants to talk about it, is shepherds and sidekicks. Okay, so your shepherd AI is the person that knows more than you, as well as helps you ideate, right? So it's the front runner, like, hey, I got these cubes. Hey, Varys, do something awesome with it. Whoa, I didn't know I could do. Oh, I didn't think about that, right? It's that person. Or it's, hey, I need to build this in this zone at this place at this location. Can you check the zoning laws for me? Right? It's the person ahead of you like that. Okay. Then
Okay,
your
okay.
sidekick is the person who manages all of your decisions that you made with your shepherd, right? So it's the worker bee. It's the one doing your door schedules, your window schedules, your paint schedules.
Yeah,
It's
saving
the
you
one,
clicks.
Yeah,
it's doing,
transactions.
thank you, saving you clicks. Exactly. And I think, and then we're in the middle as the director. And I think most of us artists, I would say probably everybody in here is an artist if you're, with chaos. You have the artist, and we want to direct until we don't. That's how we are. Like, we want to be creative until we don't.
Right.
And then we're like, you know what? Yes, I could finish that painting, but you know what? Hey, will you finish that for me? And they don't complain. You don't have to pay them, and we work it right.
Right. Kate, what don't you like about AI?
So one thing that I don't like about AI, and we need to be careful about, is that if you don't know, and actually it comes back to, I wanted to jump in when you were mentioning about poetry, and the fact that you need to learn how to communicate to be able to use AI. Right now, AI, a lot of things that are coming out of AI are looking extremely generic. Everything looks the same. That's one of the big issues. And we can see one of the reasons for that is that everyone is kind of using the same references and the same shallow prompts. So they think that by just,
Right.
writing down, like, create a minimalist interior with natural light, that's going to come out with what they have in mind. So AI can't read your mind. It's not a magical tool. And there's actually a structure, there's a method and how you prompt AI. And, there's like, you need to describe, so you need to know how to communicate your design intent. There's a workflow, so you need to mention like the medium, the subject, the environment, the style, the lighting, the mood, the composition, and the emotion that you want to create to really kind of get that specific outcome that you had in mind for AI to be able to generate it. And what we're seeing right now, and you were mentioning Pinterest, I mean, there's no point in looking in Pinterest anymore because it's all exactly AI generated images that all look like. So before, at least, we still had visuals that were different. I mean, it was like inspiration from actual designers, architects who posted their work.
Actual things that have been done, not
Yeah,
AI generated images
exactly.
of things. Yeah.
Things that were made. So right now, I mean, if you want to make the most out of that, out of AI and make sure that it doesn't look like everyone, you really need to master. We're talking about prompt engineering, and that's exactly the right term. You need to learn how to communicate your ideas like you would communicate to an intern, like a physical, real person intern. You need to communicate how you work, what you think, what are your ideas, and it's exactly the same thing with AI. It remains a machine, and you need to learn how to guide it to be able to get what you want out of it.
I like though
I
Cassie's
find
point
what
about the hallucination though, right? Like with an intern, sometimes there's an element of you don't always know what you're gonna get. And you're like, well, that's
right.
interesting. I feel like there is a place for that hallucination. You're right. It's
Have the
like
new intern do this.
yeah,
I want to get some ideas.
yeah.
They don't know what they're not doing yet. So it's one of the things that annoys me with AI is it's very transactional. I give it a prompt, I tweak some dials, I push the button, I pull the jackpot handle, and the dials go, and all of them come up cherries, and then one's a lemon, and I got to pull the handle again. And it's not a conversation. It's not dialogue. Well, I like what you've done over here, but I'm not sure about this. Like I would do with an intern, or I would do with someone if I'm trying to curate this design process. We'd probably roll out some trace and put it over a floor plan and start working things up, and then go, well, this is interesting. I wasn't expecting that, but let's turn that. I thought it was a corridor, and you turned it into a courtyard. Okay, well let's follow that path. There's not It's not the holodeck yet, right? It's still the kind of transaction of pushing the button and pulling the handle and getting an answer and
But
going,
Cassidy
I
mentioned
better.
something key though, right? Like not all clients care. I mean, we had last year, I remember at a firm at a
Yeah.
company event for Chaos, we had someone from a really top flight design firm come in and show videos or their AI use, and one of them was a video. And it was like there were some weird artifacts in that video. They're like, you know what, the client didn't care, and we showed it, and it was great. They loved it, and moved everything
Right.
forward.
It exceeded their
It
expectations.
totally
Yeah,
exceeded,
fair
and
enough.
and this is a firm. It's like their reputation is way up there. I was like, wow, this made me rethink how we could potentially use AI, like what's acceptable or not.
If
Well,
we
then
step back from AI, and go into special effects. I think we're going through this stage right now in movies where we have amazing special effects and stories that suck, not epic, not beautiful. Whereas before, when we didn't have the special effects or people had to,
Yeah.
paint,
The story
it's
is the spectacle.
we had amazing stories, and now we have amazing special effects. And I've come out of the theater with the kids in the past, and they go, "Well, it was really good special effects, but the story was that's stupid."
It's because it took the time that Kate was explaining and that I added on to. I guarantee it that when they were painting those Star Wars backdrops, they had to
Mm,
make a decision to spend the next month and a half with, Roger and Kate painting the damn thing, right? And they
mm,
had to invest in that, and they all had to put their heart into it. And that's being I've been on stages where you put that effort. The reason why Fincher makes good films is that guy goes around to every department every day and checks in.
mm.
He doesn't That's the only director I ever worked for that did that. It didn't matter who
It
they were.
doesn't delegate.
Most directors show up, late and, with their Starbucks and half awake, and I'm being dramatic, but they're not into it. And somebody that's into it changes things. Same thing. The Wings albums and Lennon albums were very good, but they were not the Beatles, right? And part of that was the process. And the reason why we got great songs because Lennon and McCartney had a
Yeah.
rivalry and they would bash back and forth. There is a beauty to that. Let's say they had AI.
No, I mean, not just a beauty. There's an essence to that. You need something driving you and confronting you and pushing you and challenging you. Okay.
But it doesn't mean don't use AI. What I was about to say is imagine AI, they had Sunu, right? Lennon and McCartney had Sunu. They would just be churning
You
out
mean
more.
for each other because they were their own.
Well, they just had another tool, right? So when they were doing it, they had records and TV and guitars, pianos, and their voices, right? But if they were doing that now, they'd have all of that plus Sunu, right? Which is like, hey, can you mix R&B? Like some of my favorite things right now is AC/DC done funk. Hey, great. I would love that. So I want the drummer from Dave Matthews on my records. Hey, if AI can make a drummer like Carter Buford, sign me up. But I
Right.
also need to know how the song is structured, how to write it, and when to tell said AI drummer to calm down and stop playing the toms, right? So,
Oh, yeah. Stop being so happy, AI.
yeah,
Just
exactly.
tone it down a bit. Hey, in your practice, when you're bridging it between this sort of, I don't want to say idealized education, young, happy minds of mush, and the reality of business side of it, where does AI give you satisfaction? I think that's an important part of the creative process that we feel like it actually came from us. We
Oh,
were
absolutely.
accountable for it. So
Yeah,
if you're using AI, but where does this satisfaction still come from in
when you
this
feel
point?
like you've had that control. I think that's why the editability of AI is so important. Not just to get our ideas, well, it is to get our ideas fully out because it can be frustrating. It's why, like, I can't stand prompt engineering because I can't always explain things. But can I take four different magazines and say it's that, 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 and that with a little bit of this? Yes, I can do that much better.
Mm.
Right. So I think it's going to be different for everybody. And I think the way I think about it is where am I weak? Right? Where am I weak and what don't I want to do? That's where I start with AI.
Well, that's where
And
that
right,
sidekick piece comes in. Like that
right,
sounds like to me the vastly more compelling version of AI.
yeah,
Sidekick. I don't know. I
that's
think that I'm not against AI, but I think there is an artifact of stress that is a compelling event to creativity. If you wait too long, What do they call it when you don't do something on time?
Procrastinate.
Procrastination. Yeah, if you procrastinate too long, it's diminished returns and you're stuffed. But if you wait a little bit up to that edge, the procrastination helps you focus because you're like, guys, I can't go out right now. I got to get this paper done for tomorrow. Like it helps
Well,
you focus.
you got to let the well fill back up. That's what I say,
Okay.
right? There's something like we only have so much energy in a day, right? Whether that's put at work or love or whatever it is, creative energies in there as well. And you can't just keep tapping into it, even if it's AI doing it for you, because you still have to be the human going, that feels good, that looks like crap, whatever. And you need that well to fill back up. You got to, and so that is your time away from doing things, right? So
I
I think
completely
that is.
agree with you, Cassidy, because I mean, when we're juggling, like multiple projects at the same time, at a certain point where there's a new project coming up, I mean, sometimes we have like creative block, like we're just so overwhelmed with so many details of different projects and so on that we're just like, we just can't, we don't have that space in your mind to be able to say, okay, we're starting from scratch, what concept do I want to go? What are the directions I want to take? And honestly, this is where I felt that AI was so helpful. Like, when I'm lost, I don't know exactly where I'm going, that I'm just going to play around with AI. It's going to come up with random ideas, and then I'm just going to suddenly see like a specific detail on one image. I'm going to say, oh my god, this is it, this is like the essence or the starting point of my creative idea, and then I start building on top of it. But this is, for me, like AI when it comes to like creative block, it's amazing, and it just like really like helps me, of just like clearing up my mind and just speeding up the reflection process. Réflexion, sorry, that was French translated to English. But anyway, it just helps you to kind of like, have like a breather in your brain and just really kind of grasp specific details and say, this is it, this is going to be my fil rouge, my red thread, to really start the whole creative process.
Okay, we can't all speak French and
I
throw
can't
out
say that
words.
in English.
Sounds fancy.
Sorry.
You ever find um so in order to be in a creative space to do whether I'm playing guitar or writing prose or designing something, I have to be at a good place. And I find that even with AI, if I'm not in a good place, I still don't enjoy it. I can't be creative enough to write the prompt. I don't feel motivated enough. There was a recent article with Neil Finn, who's a guy. Oh, he's a songwriter, Neil Finn, amazing guy. I think most beautiful songwriter in modern times. And he talks about he can't write songs when he's depressed. I thought, well, why would Neil Finn ever get depressed? And then I realized, oh no, Neil Finn's a regular guy. He doesn't write when he's not in a good place. Even if he's writing a song uh, where there's some deep sadness, he writes from a good place. And I'm finding that with AI, I can't bypass, I can't hijack my sort of present emotional state and let AI be creative. I'm just not engaged. And from a student standpoint, that's like, hey, the best part of this is I love this idea of how you work with students because you have to teach them to be rigorous and not cheat. How do you help the students take ownership of something and not just follow it through, but also feel like it's their idea? They haven't been hijacked. They're not just trying to recreate what AI gave them. How do you keep them engaged?
I mean, this is exactly where it's important to make them understand that AI is not like the final result. It's just here as a source of inspiration, and you're not supposed to use that as your end input. So they're still the creative minds. They're still the one. In the end of the day, they are the creatives because they are the one who are inputting the prompt. So when you input the prompt, you need to learn. You need to understand what are you trying to reach. What exactly are the details, the specificities that you want the outcome to have. So there is a reflection and there is like a whole thinking process prior to just typing in your prompt inside of Midjourney. So they are still the creators or the authors of what they design and what they create. But Midjourney will give you that extra little tweak to just like represent visually what you had in mind. So that's what I keep on telling them. If they're using AI the right way, they're still in complete control with of their creative process. Yeah.
Takes discipline though, right?
It takes a lot of discipline, and it's also they need to make sure that they don't get lost in trusting what AI does, and just like finding the easy solution of saying, "Oh, I'm just not going to bother thinking. I'm just going to let AI generate the visual, and then like that's done. I can move on to the next project." So this is where the difference will make actually between like a good architect, one that will stand out, and someone that's bad who just makes no effort, doesn't think, and then they're not going to be using AI the right way. So if you have a brain, if you know how to think, if you know how to communicate, and you combine that with AI, this is where you're going to be the most powerful and the best. Like this is going to be the best side of you coming out using these two elements.
The
I mean, you have
best,
to though, right? Because you have to build the thing at the end of the day. I mean, people
Exactly.
aren't just paying you for an idea.
Yeah. And then the clients won't see the value in calling you. So if it's just that.
the best digital set designers, in my opinion, were very good hand draftsmen.
Mm.
That's the and it's the same thing with AI. The folks who want to stick their head in the sand, have fun with that. The rest of us, it's just gonna elevate us when we learn to use it right and learn to be discerning with it. Again, if your client doesn't care or you're just rapping with somebody about initial designs, great, right? But at some point, be careful that you sell, and this is about the user and knowing your client. Be careful what you pitch to somebody, because it might, that beautiful glass handrail and trim to your house looks amazing and everything, but 100,000 more in your budget, and you've already established your budget. So you really got to know the process, and when you know your process, then you can kill it, because then when you're cheating or not. And it's always good, to Kate's point, I purposely let AI hallucinate. But I know I'm doing that. There's a difference. I'm not trying to get something real or accurate, or I'm purposely making my prompt as vague as possible so it will hallucinate for me. And then I slowly become a prompt engineer. So I enjoy doing that, whether it's with visuals or word salad documents. I do that. So
I mean, we've always had hallucinating AI. We would just chemically induce it.
exactly. That's right.
That's how lots of albums, amazing albums, have been created. Amazing art has been created. Amazing architecture has been created under the like an inducement of chemical. Pick one.
My
We're
guitar
just
teacher
asking.
used to tell me, write drunk, revise sober. And using AI is kind of like that, right? It's the drunk part of it. And then the human part of it is the editing later. But the drunk part of writing or creating anything is fun, right? So it's just the frustration now is, oh, that was so fun. That is so awesome. Now I need to do an animation from the backside of the house. Oh, God. Okay.
Oh God, how I ended up.
I'm gonna pray that everything stays the way it was before.
Want to take? I should take. We should take a couple answers because I feel like with that last thought, Cassidy, we're just getting to the good parts. And that is how the mind hallucinates. But okay, so question about liability. Who's still liable? I think the professional is still liable. We can't say the AI ate my homework. It's still up to us to provide judgment. Yeah. I mean, or do you
But there's
disagree?
layers of that too. And one of the things we found with talking with people, and Kate, actually, you're mentioning like these different AI tools at every stage. And I can just imagine some of the
Mm.
IT people at firms getting allergic reactions. Like in talking with a number of people, um the risk associated just with the tools themselves, like what data are they actually skimming off the top, if they're skimming data off the top, What data do they use to train, and do they actually have a right to that data and things like that? So there's risks that go beyond just what the outcome might be. There's actual more risk wrapped up in the use of these tools, which is kind of unique to AI tools versus other things. Like it's not like using Revit's going to put you at risk. It's what you create with Revit or what you create with SketchUp. But we're out here, we're actually in a weird position where the tool itself and even its use can pose risks. And then
The
I'm thinking,
training part of it, the training part of it to me isn't risky because the way I frame it, and then I want you guys to disagree, is I have a 10,000 interns that can go to a library and read magazines and look at pictures, look online, and then they can come back with ideas. Okay, but I don't have 10,000 interns. So the way I do it is use a computer that goes and scrapes precedence
that's
images.
the difference, right? It's
I mean,
copying.
but am I framing it in too simplistic way? I don't mind that the internet goes out and scrapes. Architects aren't going to stop putting their images online. So if you want to design a building in the style of name an architect, they've got photos online, and AI is going to scrape those online images and come back with something aesthetically. You can
But
see
you
the
also notice
parallel.
in those images that they have, it's you're not allowed to take that image and reuse it,
I know,
right?
but I could look at a magazine and go, "Oh, I really like that
You
idea."
do like it,
Okay.
right? And you're putting it up here and you're riffing. I mean, it's the same thing with music, right? That's probably some of the place where this sort of copyright law is like, wasn't there one with Marvin Gaye and shoot, I can't remember
Oh,
who it
they're
was,
here. Yeah.
right? It was something
Yeah.
fairly recent, right? And it's like, is this derivative or not? And that's the question here. But also the I think the question here is inside these AI tools, in that training set that's being used, is it using protected IP where they have the right to even use it for that purpose or not? That's the
I think it
question.
was
It's still
Solomon's.
not 100% resolved. Fortunately, you as a user, the risk is quite low, but as you get to larger and larger firms, larger and larger clients, they're still concerned around that side of the equation.
Yeah, I think to paraphrase Solomon saying that nothing is new, everything is derivative, right? Human history is
Yeah.
derivative. We don't like it when we're not getting compensated for it. I get that. Like in music, it gets pretty close. What was the one? There was like a Vanilla Ice song that was
But there was
Yeah,
the
and Queen.
sampling a Queen
Yeah.
song. Yeah,
there was a
yeah.
Bruno Mars and Sting song. It was exactly the same beat, but Sting was like, "Hey, it's pretty damn good."
Okay,
So,
so let it go.
but there's the saying, "Great artists borrow." What is it? Good artists borrow, great artists steal. And I think at this point, you're not putting the cat back in the bag as far as what AI has stolen. We're just
If you're
not.
only using AI to reference another architect to do something in their style, that's lazy.
It's lazy. Well, again, there's shysters in every business, right? So there are
Right.
going to
Right.
be the people that do that. Okay, we'll have fun building it. And you know what? So what can it? So let's say somebody is cheeky like that and just use their design is just robbed from somebody else, and their client's happy, and the community's happy, and the building looks great. Do we care? Right? I think there's always going to be those types. But I honestly think that when heart and soul, not to be hippy dippy, but when your heart and soul is into something, that it carries through your product, through your building, through your album, through your painting, whatever it is. And people, when they go to a gallery, I guarantee it, without them knowing, will gravitate towards the one that was done
Mm.
with the heart and the pain and the struggle and all of that. I swear, as humans, that comes through. I know that sounds woo woo, but I
You're in
really,
Austin. It's okay.
Yeah.
You could say things like that.
well, I've
Do
been
you
in
remember
enough,
is
I've been
the
in enough
require reading?
creative fields, different
Yeah.
creative fields, and it comes through. It really does.
But
So,
what
There,
about
there are,
this issue of these custom training sets, right? People are training off of their own projects. I mean, I'm thinking like Kate, you work really hard in your interior design. You probably have a design language. If you were to create an AI tool that's customized for you, that's trained off of your projects, there's real value in that. And someone's
I would
potentially
hate it.
robbing you of
But
that value.
that's exactly
No, I don't want to do the thing I did last time or as a derivative. I want to do the thing that I've never done before the last
Well, yeah, but
time.
you look at a lot of architecture firms, and there's a consistency in their language. I mean, I can look at a
Oh
building and be
yeah,
like, oh yeah,
yeah. A
that's a Pella
material. That's
building.
right.
well,
mm,
and
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Getch is like
hire
that. Yeah.
when you hire a junior, what do you tell them? Just keep their blinders on? No, you say, look at what we've
Hmm.
done. Look at our design. Look how we do
Okay.
things, right? And so for me in the art department, I would want somebody that is a clone of me, essentially, right? And has other skills so that I know and I can manage that, process.
Mm.
Yeah, right. So there's value in this, in your repository of work. And
Huge.
like,
Huge value. And imagine when somebody starts, so where I think companies and individuals are going to elevate themselves with AIs, because we all have the tools, is the knowledge that's not in there. So like color theory knowledge from the best color theorists, interior design practices from the top interior design. Imagine you could have, like, I just like Zaha Hadid. Imagine you have the Zaha Hadid filter and it has certain system prompts in it that allow you to do this. But then, Rod, yes, 1,000% we need to allow for individuals or companies to have their own RAG, essentially, their own repository of information, whether that's their clients, vendors, paint colors, steel manufacturers that they use. If you have all of that, AI becomes way more
Right.
powerful
yeah,
to you and hallucinates a lot less because it's essentially having context aware conversations
yeah,
with
and
you now.
it's your context.
That's right.
Yeah, do we need sliders that are architecture specific? Do we have a little more John Lautner, a little less Zaha Hadid, and a little more
Well,
Cesar Pelle?
you're not
And they're
far off.
metaphors, right? They're
Yes.
metaphors for language.
Yes.
When you say Zaha or Pele or Lautner, it evokes an image, a kind
Correct.
of a geometry or lighting or something.
And all of us, if you ask Kate to build 3 agents that were architect focused, and she and I had to do the exact same architects, we're still, both of our agents are going to be slightly different
Yeah,
still.
exactly.
And I think that's the beauty of it, though.
Yeah. And this is exactly where it's important. I mean, I'm just going to bounce back on what you were saying about privacy and data. I mean, we can see now more and more like, contracts coming up saying where they ban actually the use of public AI tools in a project. And to be honest, that feels completely fair when you think about it, because it's confidential information. So in no means when it comes to public AI tools to actually put confidential information inside, because you don't know how it's being used, how the data is being like reused afterwards. And I think there's like two ways of going through it. Like for larger firms, the safest route is actually using like internal AI systems that are trained on their own work. But that creates kind of a gap, I'd say, between like really large firms and then like the
It
more
does, right? A competitive advantage that the large
exactly
firms would
there's
have. Yeah.
competitive advantage. And like big companies, they can afford to create like private dedicated setups, while
Yeah.
smaller
And
studios
have 20 years of Revit use.
exactly that's it.
Yeah.
While like smaller studios or like independent architects, they don't have the financial means or the possibilities, the technical knowledge and so on to be able to do that. So there is ways for like smaller like studios or just like individuals to create their own like AI. So it's called like it's called sorry custom GPTs. So
Hmm.
you create pretty much your own AI assistant, which is a private assistant and is not shared publicly. Or you share pretty much, as you were saying, Rod, you share like all of your documentation that you have. So, for example, is it like building code documentation? Is it space planning? Like your whole book of knowledge, like in terms of space planning, you upload that in your custom GPT that you've created, and then you can ask that GPT. So you need to create like individual custom GPTs per topic. And then
Hmm.
whatever you ask him, it just outsources the information from the document that you've uploaded. This is private. It remains only with you. You can share it also with your team. And one of the good things is that we were talking about hallucination. ChatGPT, if you ask him a question about a specific like building code in your region, he's going to invent something, or you're not going to be sure that it's actually accurate. But if you create your own private custom GPT, you fed the exact document inside of your GPT. And when you ask quickly the question, instead of going through like your 600 pages You just ask quickly the question. He's going to outsource the information from your document and bring it out to you. So it's like an alternative. It doesn't solve all of the issues or all of the possibilities that a larger firm will have, but there are small possibilities for smaller companies or individual architects to be able to create their own custom GPTs, keeping the privacy of the data and just like using it to be faster in their work.
Yeah, do you guys know Weavy? Have you heard of Weavy?
No.
There is, give me, I'm going to share something. I think this is important. I'll make it quick. I think I can do this right. If share me desktop, hold on, let me go here and click on Weavy. Okay, I thought I did. Oh, copy. Okay, give me a second. So I think what we're talking about now, I think my opinion is this is
Oh yeah.
where we go in the future with it, right? So what we're talking about is
Were they just acquired by Canva or something like that, or is that them?
Figma. Figma
Figma.
just
Okay, yeah.
applied. But there's Comfy UI. There's a couple other ones. I'll send the slide deck to you guys and then share out however you want. But to me, this is how we get our control, but also stay flexible. And basically, imagine each one of these nodes. Imagine one of these nodes is your documentation, or one of these nodes is your color palette or your logos. And you can literally just take that node and stick it in a pipeline. And this is like
Mm,
parametric, where most of your work is done up front and then you get to enjoy it, right? So let's say when you do your presentations, you always do all 4 seasons and you do an animation in this aspect
right.
ratio and all of that. You can build that with a pipeline like this, and then it's already done. And then it's almost like you can come back to the early nodes, change something, and that affects everything down the line from it. And I think that to me, I'm excited about this world's combining with stuff like Varus and other tools like that. Imagine there's a Enscape node and the output of that goes into Nano Banana or whatever it is, and then goes into a node that is a levels, like a Photoshop type thing, and you just are building
Mm,
blocks like that. And so, what you're giving companies and individuals is a sandbox that has a bunch of tools that they connect. And if you're really buttoned up, you give your users a connected node system that they can copy, tweak, and play with, right? So,
right.
I thought
They
this was
Do you, is there, talking about specific tools, is there one tool that is your go-to tool that you like to start with, Kate?
Oh no. So we just
I
lost
think
Kate.
Kate's camera just glitched. We'll
oh,
wait for Kate to come back. Cassidy, is there a particular tool that you like to start with?
it depends if I'm doing visuals or if I'm doing PM work. If I'm doing visuals, I've
Okay.
started to use Weavy because it Weavy has every single freaking model in it. You just grab the node that you want, right? And if I run out of credits, I just grab the cheaper model and do it that way. So I
Okay.
like it there because it has more freedom. What I need is more freedom and
Hmm.
editability than hallucinations. That's what I personally need,
Do you like
right?
stitching together these metaphors as images?
Yeah, I like stitching these workflows together because to me, like a Mid-Journey or Dolly or whatever, those are dopamine hits. Those are great, but I need more sustainability. And so if I'm going to go use a tool, again, I ask myself, just like I ask my clients, what's my end result? And my end result is usually needing more editability and control. And so I'm using Weavy. And then on the other side, for like my rapid prototypes for my team, I'm using AI Studio and Firebase and the Google suite of tools.
Kate, is there a particular tool that you tend to gravitate to and start with at the beginning that you find is really useful?
Yeah, well, there's one tool that so Midjourney and ChatGPT are really the combo when it comes really at the early stage of the concept development. But then there's one tool which is actually very similar to what Cassidy you were saying. It's called FreePick, and FreePick gathers actually all of the major AI tools when it comes to image editing, to video generators, to pretty much also like voice AI assistants. So it really gathers all the most powerful tools, and it just launched a few days ago, actually, exactly the same kind of like structure as what you shared with Weavy. It's called FreePix Faces, and you pretty much like prompt and connect all the different models one by one, and it generates like a bit like a tree architecture with like loads of different options, and you can tweak and re-change it and just like switch from one model to another depending on what you're trying to reach. Like if you're, for example, trying to source like specific objects inside of a scene, then you're going to use Nano Banana. If you want to improve like and have different perspectives, you're going to use Sea Dream. And all of that can be done just like literally in the same platform, on the same like space board, just by just changing the model and readjusting the prompt. So for me, FreePick is a definite must have as an architect, because instead of having to pay subscriptions, like a subscription for like for Flux Context, for Sea Dream, for Nano Banana, there's so many, you're lost, and that one just gathers everything at a pretty low cost. You got a number of credits, so you just that's how it works, and you can just use everything. Everything is integrated seamlessly, so it's a must have.
I like using Suno. I like using Suno for compose the first pass at music, because I can't get musicians to sit in a room with me, but I can do it a different way. But I always have to take the last result into post and move things around and emphasize certain pieces of it. It has nothing to do with architecture, but it's a labor of love. Architecturally, I like the Veris animation tool as a final product image compared to the Veris rendering tool for a still image. I don't know why that is, but if I prompt with an image, I seem to get a more satisfying result at the end of that little 5-second video snippet. It takes longer, but that final image is so complete. And at the moment, I can use it to design ahead of the design. So I can take an image or a context that's probably done in Revit for me, rendered in Enscape, and I can take that image and pull it into Veris on the web and prompt as an animation and get a more satisfying result as the last frame than if I prompt as a still image. Just seems to work that way. Rod, is there any particular tool that you like to use?
I use ChatGPT a lot, especially with deep research. I really like to be able to riff off of that. But I also like it just for things maybe that are not work related. Like I was actually prompting recently to like make custom cut gears on a car, and like what would it take to do something like that. Like that's a challenging thing to do. Like most people, like that's a pretty niche level of knowledge. Like
It's a little esoteric, fair enough.
Yeah, and I don't know anyone that does it, right? So there's things like that I really enjoy, that type of discussion. I also honestly, for me, I'm less involved in the visual production side of it. So I still find when I do want to do visuals and things like that, actually, I like working with my team the most. And it's sort of funny that you talk about like a training set or something like that. Like it's taken, a couple of years to get to a point where I can mention things in a certain language in a certain way, and I know what I'm going to get. And so in a lot of ways, it is like it's a very human aspect of having gone through sort of collaboratively that type of a training process. And I don't find, at least with ChatGPT and other tools, like I've tried to do that same sort of thing, provide guidance, say this is what I like, this is what I don't. And it's not even close to what a human can do. Maybe at some point it could get there with enough feedback, but I'm not finding it. And that's where like I'm still well shy of what I feel like I can accomplish with a good team.
A team part, whenever you go through design process with a team, the first part of that meeting is, oh, how's everybody doing? What's going on? And you have that first. You kind of go around the room and everybody checks in. And I find with AI, you don't do that. You just sort of get in there and start away and start away. I kind of
Yeah.
miss that part of it. And that's, I think I still gravitate towards people because you just want to check in. You just want to have that human experience. And then we're kind of typing over here
Well, you're checking in
that,
on what your feels. Like it keeps coming back to feel.
yeah,
Starting the project with camaraderie, with, hey, how are you? Oh, I like how you dress. Oh, that fabric is amazing. Oh, I love those glasses.
yeah, not locked away.
You're connecting with people, right?
Yeah,
And
these icebreakers and whatnot, and yeah.
yeah, and once you connect with somebody, whether that's in business or a relationship, that's when things start to grow or
At
they fall
studio.
apart.
Kate, do your students, are they working at home
Yeah.
prompt engineering, or are they in a studio going, oh, check this out, I did this thing, and they're kind of sharing
Well,
the
that's actually
result?
one of the, most of them are like have their own studios or their own business. So like
Right.
3/4 of them work at home. And that's actually
Mm,
one of the big issues that they're facing. And I'm facing, also facing, is I'm isolated. I'm like, behind my computer all day. I've got no way. And for me, like interior design architect, it's all about exchanging, all about sharing ideas. It's about getting, someone else's opinion. Because sometimes you're so like stuck in your view that you need someone from the outside to tell you, hold on, you didn't picture it like that. Maybe if you look at it through this angle, then it's not going to have the same perspective. And so I think this is exactly where it's important. And people are moving more and more towards trying to work together. So there's like over here, for example, there's a lot of like weekly meetings between architects and interior designers who work by themselves. We meet up like for like 3 hours during the week, just to be able to exchange on our projects, on our views, on problematics that we may have, because AI is isolating us more and more,
mm.
and we need this human contact. So if we don't work in an actual studio or an agency where you have that possibility because you have colleagues, then you try to find it elsewhere through these like associations or like events, to be able to grasp and get that human feel.
There was a event where someone from Amazon as a data scientist was talking, and they were saying that even within their company, same office, people's first response when faced with the challenge was to go to the AI bot and interact with it, not to go to their colleague across the way. And it's an
Right.
interesting piece there. I mean, that's like, yeah, I would say the colleague, right? They're going to give you the better guidance, hopefully, um, but
If
not
they're
where people are
nice,
going.
if they like you, right? There are some things that I just use Gemini. I ask Gemini that I'm too embarrassed to ask somebody,
Yeah.
right? I think that is
Mm.
very helpful at times, right? Like my mechanic, I love cars, but I don't know my ass from my elbow. So before I went to talk to my mechanic,
It's like,
I
does this part actually exist? Is this a real? Yeah,
yeah.
Well, you should
Wait,
talk to Rod. Rod can
that's
cut a
right.
gear for you.
if I
He's
put
got.
this fluid in that thing, does it do this? Just stuff like that.
So if we're gonna, because we're actually at time, we should start wrapping up. Last big idea. Everybody got a big idea about how to get, if you had a recommendation for someone how to get started, where they could go and play around, where they could fail fast. Cassidy, what would you recommend? What's a big idea about AI for you that you want to, we'll just go around?
Uh, I don't have a specific one. I would say
Mm.
use, if you got money, pay for it. If you don't, use every free thing out there. Keep up on it, and there's almost no way you'll be left behind because I think the folks that are in this meeting right now are probably in the top 5% of people focusing on this stuff. We've all heard about it, right? Even AI tells me how many sheets to pull on my toilet roll, right? We have AI everywhere, but
Everything. Yeah.
it's how you use it, right?
Okay.
And knowing all of the little tools so that you know when something like Flow or Free Pick comes out, you're right there testing it. And you will, if you do that, you'll do just fine. And then you'll find the one that works for your workflow. So I would just keep breaking things is what I would say.
Stay curious.
Yeah.
Rod, anything particular? What would you wrap with?
Uh, as a counterpoint to what Cassidy's saying, obviously I have a chaos bias. But one of the things that is that we do present sort of a one-stop shop. If there's an AI tool that is sufficiently robust to be part of a real professional designer's workflow, it's going to be in, as far as visualization is concerned, it'll be in our software. And so that's one thing I can say with a degree of confidence, and if it's not there yet, there's a good reason. The technology might not be totally resolved and things like that. So that's one thing. The other thing.
Go ahead. No. Somebody
Okay,
had
just on
asked
my
early on
I would
about
say
your
on my
link.
second point is if you're starting out, I might almost recommend a bit of an AI detox. Like I think if you're just starting in design, obviously maybe there's not any students here, but like I would almost advocate for people to not touch it right away. It's kind of like kids aren't supposed to be on devices, until they're like 5 or 6 or whatever it might be. Might be something to be said for a similar approach to AI with emerging professionals.
Kate, big idea?
For me, it's don't fear it, just embrace it. I mean, we've moved from drawing boards to CAD, and that went well. It took a time to adjust, but it got there.
I don't know if it went well. There's still, I know a few
A
people.
lot of people got there. The only thing is just to use it smartly. Be careful on how you use it. Use it smartly, but just don't fear it. It's an incredible tool, and yeah, it's worth testing it out. Just using it the right way and in a smart way is what I would recommend.
I feel like the people that are on drawing boards cheated because they're like, yeah, I'm not going to CAD. I'm just going to draw. And then they're like, yeah, I'm not even going to go to BIM. I'm just going to draw. And now it's come full circle. And they're like, oh, I can use AI. I can draw. Like they finally got what they wanted. They could start from a sketch, but they don't have to rely on a room full of interns to render. They could actually start from the sketch and render. So
yeah,
you
it's like
you
my
guys, thank you
theory
so
on
much.
camouflage pants. You wait long enough, and camouflage pants come back into fashion.
They'll be popular again. Don't throw those old
Yeah.
clothes away. Oh no, you guys are great. Thank you very much. Rod, someone asked for a link for your white paper, so we'll have to post that in
Oh,
whatever they
definitely.
call it,
Yeah, it's a
the show
solid
notes or
paper,
something.
I have to say.
Yeah, so we get that link. Kate, I would love to see some exemplary examples of your students' workflow, going
Sure.
from ideation through AI to being accountable for that, to modeling it, to go like even into the hard documentation.
Yeah, I
It
can
would
share
be
that. No
awesome
problem.
to see that
Absolutely.
that process, not just the end product of what they finally
No,
created, but
the full
that,
process on how to
Yeah.
use it.
yeah, I'd love to
No
see
problem. I've
that.
got an actual chart that I can share with you. So
Fantastic. And same
Yep.
thing, Cassidy, I would love to see a progression of where you've used these tools to go from ideation to
Sure.
resolution to reiteration. It could be it could be a film project. It doesn't have to necessarily be architecture.
Sure.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you so much for having
Yeah.
us.
We're good.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you,
Take care,
guys.
guys. Have a good day.
Bye.